Once upon a time in a faraway kingdom, there lived a little boy named Oliver. Oliver was just an ordinary boy who liked to play with his friends and have fun. But one day everything changed when Oliver's mother got sick. His mother had been feeling unwell for days, and now she lay in bed coughing and sneezing non-stop. At first, Oliver didn't think much of it. Moms get sick sometimes, that's what he told himself. But then his mom started getting worse and worse. She became too weak to get out of bed, and her coughs were getting louder and more frequent. Oliver was scared. He ran to his dad and said, "Dad, Mom is very sick. What should I do?" Dad hugged Oliver and said, "Don't worry, son, your mom will be fine. It's just a cold. I'll ask Grandma to come over and take care of her." Then Dad went to the kitchen to make some soup for his wife. Meanwhile, Oliver went to his room to play with his action figures. He tried to ignore the situation, but he couldn't help worrying about his mother. Suddenly, he heard a knock at the door, and it was his grandmother. "Grandma," said Oliver, "Mom is sick. How can I help her?" Grandma smiled and said, "You are a good boy, Oliver. You can help your mom by giving her this soup. Come on, let's go see her together." Oliver nodded and followed his grandmother into his parents' bedroom. There they found Dad sitting next to Mom. On the bedside table was a bowl filled with hot soup. "Here, Oliver," said Grandma, "give this to your mom. It will help her feel better." Oliver approached his mother cautiously. He didn't like the idea of touching a sick person. But then he saw how weak and miserable she looked, and he felt sorry for her. So Oliver took the bowl and said, "Mom, here, drink some soup. It will make you feel better." Mom opened her eyes and smiled weakly. "Thank you, Oliver," she whispered. "That's very kind of you." But she didn't touch the bowl. "Mom, why don't you eat?" asked Oliver. "Because," Mom said, "I don't feel hungry. And besides, this is only chicken soup. I want something else." "Like what?" asked Oliver. "Like pizza, hamburgers, french fries, sweets, soft drinks, popcorn, fried chicken, cheesecakes, ice cream, and so on," Mom replied. "But Mom," said Dad, "you can't eat any of that when you're sick. You need nutritious food to recover quickly." "I know, dear," Mom said, "but these things taste delicious." "Can't I have just a little bite?" "No, you can't," Dad said firmly. "You must eat healthy food," Mom sighed. Then suddenly, Oliver had an idea. He said, "Don't worry, Mom. I'll bring you all the junk food you want. I promise." "Really? You'd do that for me?" Mom asked. "Of course," said Oliver. "Just wait a minute." And with that, Oliver ran out of the house. As soon as he was outside, Oliver felt a sense of relief. He had no intention of bringing his mom all those unhealthy foods. In fact, he hated those foods. He only pretended to be willing to get them because he didn't want his mom to feel bad. As Oliver walked through the streets, he thought to himself, how could I get Mom to eat healthy food without her noticing? Then he had an idea. He went to the nearest grocery store and bought some carrots, potatoes, broccoli, and other vegetables. Next, he stopped by the bakery and bought some bread, then went to the butcher shop to buy some sausages. Finally, he went home. When he entered the house, he went straight to the kitchen and started cooking. Meanwhile, Dad was taking care of Mom. "Dad," Mom said, "what did Oliver go out for? Did he go get me all that junk food?" "No, honey," Dad replied. "I think he went shopping for groceries." "Oh, I hope he doesn't buy any unhealthy stuff," Mom said worriedly. A few minutes later, Oliver came out of the kitchen carrying a big pot. "Mom," he said, "here's the food I promised." "Oh, Oliver, thank you," Mom said. "Let me see." She looked at the pot and her face fell. "Is that broccoli?" "Yes, Mom," said Oliver. "Are you sure you can't eat anything else?" "Well, actually," Mom said hesitantly, "I could eat some chicken. I also have some sausages," Oliver said proudly. "Okay, I guess I could eat a few of those." Mom forced herself to eat some vegetables and sausages. "This tastes so delicious," she said with a big smile. "Thanks, Oliver, you're a great cook." "Thanks, Mom," Oliver replied. "I learned it from you." From that day on, Oliver cooked for his mom every day until she was completely recovered. He made soups, stews, stir-fries, salads, and so on. And every day he surprised his family with new and exciting recipes. They were amazed by his skills and praised him for being such a good cook. Oliver was happy to make everyone happy. He knew that his cooking was helping his mom get better faster, and that made him feel proud and accomplished. After a week or so, Mom was finally well enough to get out of bed. "Oh, Oliver," she said, hugging him tightly. I'm so glad I have a son as caring as you. Thank you for taking care of me." "You're welcome, Mom," Oliver replied. "I love you." As time passed, life returned to normal. Oliver continued to cook for his family every day, and his skills only improved with practice. He loved cooking, and it was clear that he had a natural talent for it. Who knows? Maybe one day he would become a famous chef. One day while playing outside, Oliver and his friends were attacked by a group of viruses. These viruses were evil and mean. Their goal was to make people sick and cause chaos. The viruses were led by a big bad virus named Mr. X. "Foolish humans," Mr. X boomed. "You're in our trap now. Get ready to get sick." The viruses surrounded Oliver and his friends, and they started to feel unwell. They started sneezing and coughing. "Oh," said Oliver, "these viruses are making us sick." "What are we gonna do?" asked one of Oliver's friends. Suddenly, Oliver had an idea. He said, "Hey viruses, if you want to make people sick, come inside my house. My mom will take care of you." The viruses were confused. "What do you mean?" asked Mr. X. "My mom makes the best chicken soup in the world. It's guaranteed to cure any illness," Oliver replied. "Really? Are you sure?" asked Mr. X suspiciously. "Of course," said Oliver. "Just follow me." The viruses didn't know it, but Oliver had a plan. He wanted to get rid of them once and for all. He led the viruses to his house and knocked on the door. His dad opened the door and was surprised to see so many viruses on the doorstep. "Can I help you?" he asked cautiously. "We'd like to come in and have some of your wife's famous chicken soup," Oliver said politely. Dad was suspicious, but he let the viruses in. Inside the house, the viruses were amazed by everything they saw. The walls were decorated with paintings and the furniture was comfortable and stylish. "Wow, this place is amazing," said one of the viruses. "Yeah, it's pretty cool," said another. While the viruses were admiring the house, Oliver went to the kitchen and started making his mom's famous chicken soup. He chopped carrots, celery, and onions, then put them in a pot with water and chicken broth. He added some noodles and seasonings and then let it boil. Meanwhile, his dad was talking to the viruses. "So, what brings you here?" he asked. "We heard that your wife makes the best chicken soup in the world and we'd like to try it," said Mr. X. "Oh, sure," Dad replied suspiciously. He didn't like the idea of having viruses in his house, but he wasn't going to let them leave until they had some soup. A few minutes later, Oliver came out of the kitchen carrying a big pot of soup. "Here you go," he said to the viruses. "Enjoy." The viruses were amazed by the smell of the soup. It smelled so delicious and comforting. They had never smelled anything like it before. "Wow, this smells amazing," said one of the viruses. "Yeah, it does," said another. Mr. X took a deep breath and said, "All right, let's try the soup." The viruses sat down at the table and started eating. They slurped the soup loudly as they enjoyed its rich flavor and creamy texture. "This is so good," said one of the viruses. "I've never tasted anything like it before." "Me neither," said another. "It's so delicious." Mr. X finished his bowl of soup and said, "That was amazing. This is the best chicken soup I've ever tasted." "I agree," said the other viruses. Suddenly, they started to feel a strange sensation. They felt lighter, happier, and more energetic than they had ever felt before. "What's happening to me?" asked one of the viruses. "I feel great," said another. Mr. X was confused. He didn't understand what was happening to them. "I don't know," he said. "But I feel like I want to sneeze," and with that, Mr. X sneezed violently. The other viruses started sneezing as well. They sneezed. As they sneezed, they disappeared one by one until only Mr. X was left. No, he stammered. Don't leave me. Please stay with me." But the other viruses were gone. It was just Mr. X and Oliver in the kitchen. Why am I still here?" Mr. X asked. "Because you haven't had enough soup yet," Oliver said with a smile. "Oh, okay," said Mr. X, and he started eating the soup again. Meanwhile, Oliver's dad went to the window and looked outside. "It seems like the other viruses are gone," he said. "Yeah, they are," replied Oliver. "This soup really works." "That's right," said Mr. X. "This is the best soup I've ever tasted." "But why does it make me feel so weird?" "Because it's made with love," said Oliver. "My mom puts a lot of love into her cooking, and that's what makes it so special. Love is the most powerful ingredient of all. Mr. X was touched by Oliver's words. He had never thought of food as something more than just sustenance. But now he understood that food can be so much more than that. It can be a way to show love and care for others. Mr. X finished his bowl of soup and said, "Thank you for this wonderful experience. I will never forget it." "You're welcome, Mr. X," said Oliver. "Goodbye." "Goodbye," said Mr. X, and with that, Mr. X disappeared as well. Oliver's dad came back to the kitchen and said, "Looks like we defeated the viruses." "Yeah, we did," said Oliver. "All thanks to Mom's delicious chicken soup." "That's right," said Dad. "Your mom is the real hero here. She has no idea how powerful her cooking is." From that day on, the viruses never bothered Oliver and his friends again. And whenever they felt sick, they would go to Oliver's house for a bowl of his mom's famous chicken soup. Oliver was happy to help his friends, and he knew that his mom was proud of him.